She stood in the middle of the office, her hands trembling, one protectively resting on her small baby bump. The HR manager's voice echoed in her ears, cold and final. "We're letting you go, effective immediately. No severance. No compassion. Just silence." And eyes watching her as if pregnancy made her a liability. As she walked out with her cardboard box of memories, framed pictures, sticky notes, and a half-finished mug of tea, she wasn't just carrying her belongings. She was carrying shame, heartbreak, and a baby that hadn't even opened its eyes to the world yet. But what they didn't know was that they had just awakened the fiercest, most determined version of her. Bestie, if you've ever felt like you were thrown away, doubted, or pushed aside because of your circumstances, this story is for you. Stick with me to the end. Because the same woman they fired while pregnant, she's about to show the world what happens when a woman chooses to rise and build her own empire. Amara had always been the kind of woman who carried hope like perfume, subtle but always present. Even as a child growing up in the narrow apartment blocks of Atlanta, she would clip magazine covers and dream of someday running her own design agency. She wasn't flashy. She didn't need fame. But she craved purpose, creativity, and freedom. By the time she turned 28, things were finally starting to fall into place. She'd landed a steady job at a mid-sized branding firm. Her boss, a stern but fair woman named Marianne, had taken a liking to her clean designs and calm demeanor. Amara quickly became the go-to person for last-minute fixes and high-pressure projects. She never complained, even when she worked late into the night while everyone else clocked out. Then, the news came. It was a Friday morning. Amara sat on the bathroom floor, barefoot in her oversized t-shirt, staring at 2 pink lines on a pregnancy test. Her heart raced, not from fear, but disbelief. She and Jordan, her longtime boyfriend, hadn't planned this. In fact, they had just begun talking about taking their careers more seriously before thinking about kids. She held her belly, whispering softly, "I guess it's me and you now." At first, she thought she could manage it all. Keep the pregnancy quiet until her second trimester, work through the fatigue, and maybe even stash enough money to feel secure before taking a short maternity break. But life had other plans. Just 3 weeks later, she fainted at her desk. Marian found her slumped over a keyboard, pale and clammy. An ambulance was called. At the hospital, after a barrage of tests, the nurse gently asked her, "Are you aware that you're pregnant?" Marianne didn't say much that day. In fact, she hardly spoke to Amara after that. A week later, she was called into HR. Amara sat stiffly across from the HR manager, a woman named Patricia who always wore a forced smile. Marianne was there too, arms crossed, her lips a tight line. "Amara," Patricia began, avoiding eye contact, "we appreciate your contributions to the firm. However, after recent events, we've reassessed our staffing needs." Amara blinked, confused. "Staffing needs? We're restructuring. Your position is being phased out," Patricia continued, her voice rehearsed. Marianne didn't say a word. Amara leaned forward. "You're firing me because I'm pregnant." "Absolutely not," Patricia said quickly. "This is a business decision. Nothing personal." But Amara could feel it in her bones. Marianne had been cold ever since the hospital incident. Once she became a liability, a pregnant employee who might take maternity leave, who might ask for flexibility, she became dispensable. She left the office that day with a cardboard box filled with 5 years of her life. Sticky notes, sketches, a framed picture of her and Jordan at the company retreat. That night, Amara sat in the quiet of their apartment, the walls pressing in around her like strangers. Jordan didn't take the news well. He paced the floor, hands on his head. "What are we going to do, Amara? How are we supposed to afford a baby now?" "I don't know," she whispered. The following weeks blurred. Jordan grew distant. He stopped coming home some nights. Eventually, he left a note. Just a note. "I'm sorry. I'm not ready for this kind of life." And just like that, Amara was alone, pregnant, unemployed, abandoned. Every morning she woke up, nausea twisting in her stomach, not just from pregnancy, but from the weight of it all. The world had closed in on her. But somehow, deep in the shadows of her despair, a quiet voice in her spirit whispered, "This is not the end." Amara sat by the window of her small apartment, staring out at the gray sky. Rain tapped softly against the glass, a rhythm that mirrored her thoughts. She was 8 months pregnant now. The baby kicked more often, a steady, reassuring thump against her ribs. It reminded her there was still life within her, still purpose, still a reason to fight. Bills piled on the kitchen counter. The little savings she had was nearly gone. She applied to job after job, only to get rejection after rejection. Not a good fit. We're moving forward with another candidate. We'll keep your resume on file. No one wanted to hire a visibly pregnant woman. One afternoon, after being turned away from yet another job interview, Amara passed a small kiosk tucked between 2 buildings. It was old and rusted, with a faded handwritten sign that read, "Fresh juices, smoothies, hope." The last word caught her. An elderly woman stood behind the counter, smiling as she handed a customer a cup. Amara slowed down. The smell of mango and ginger wafted through the air. Something about the place pulled her in. The woman saw her and waved. "You look like you could use something sweet." Amara hesitated, then approached. "I'm sorry, I can't afford." The woman shook her head gently. "On the house. First-time smiles are free." Tears welled in Amara's eyes as she took the cup. "Thank you," she whispered. They sat on the sidewalk together, sipping smoothies as people passed. The woman's name was Mama June, and her face was a map of stories. "I built this place when I had nothing," Mama June said. "My husband left. I had 2 kids. No job. Just a juicer, a dream, and a sidewalk. You'd be surprised what can grow from nothing, child." Something sparked in Amara's heart. That night, she stayed up sketching on napkins and scrap paper. Ideas flowed like water. Healthy meals for pregnant women. Smoothies that helped with nausea. Baked snacks made with love. She called it Bump and Bloom. She didn't have capital. She didn't have a store. But she had a blender, a passion, and a baby on the way. She started by selling from her front steps. Then on Instagram, she'd post pictures of her belly next to her smoothies, sharing raw captions about her journey. People noticed. People cared. Orders trickled in, then poured. By the time she went into labor, she had a loyal following and over 200 pre-orders. Lying in the hospital bed, holding her daughter, whom she named Zoe, meaning life, Amara whispered, "We did it." It wasn't fame. It wasn't millions. But it was hers. And it was growing. 6 weeks after giving birth, Amara stood in her small kitchen, baby Zoe strapped to her chest in a sling, blending fruits and packing orders with one hand. Her mornings began at 4:30 a.m., before the world stirred, before Zoe's soft coos turned into hungry cries. Her apartment, once quiet and lonely, now buzzed with purpose. Word of Bump and Bloom spread like sunlight through storm clouds. At first, it was just friends and neighbors. Then friends of friends. Then a local mommy blogger featured her. Then came the call from a lifestyle reporter at the local paper. "Your story is inspiring," the reporter said. "Single mom turns her pregnancy into a passion business. Can we feature you?" The headline read, "From pink slip to purpose, how one mom blended her way back to life." The day it was published, Amara received 2,000 new followers on Instagram. Her DMs exploded with messages from women, some crying, some thanking her, others asking how they could start something of their own. Orders poured in. She could no longer keep up with the demand alone. She hired her first employee, a young woman named Kechi, also a single mom. Then another. Then a delivery driver. Every person she brought on had a story, a struggle, a reason they believed in Bump and Bloom. Soon, her tiny apartment could no longer contain the business. With the help of a small business grant she applied for late at night between feedings, Amara rented a cozy storefront just 3 blocks away. She decorated it with baby photos, affirmations on the wall, and a play corner for moms who came in with toddlers. It wasn't just a smoothie shop. It was a safe haven. Her grand opening was packed. People lined up around the block. Mama June came with a bouquet of sunflowers and a teary smile. Told you, baby, she said, pulling Amara into a hug. Something can grow from nothing. By the end of that year, Amara was invited to speak on panels about women in business. She shared her story with raw honesty, never sugarcoating the pain, the rejection, the fear. But she always ended with this: I was told that becoming a mother would limit me, that no one would take a chance on me because I was too much of a risk. So I took a chance on myself, and it saved my life. Zoe, now toddling and giggling, would sit behind the counter with her juice cup and wave at customers like she owned the place. In truth, she kind of did. Because everything, every long night, every tear, every fruit peeled and every caption posted, was for her. And Amara. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was thriving. Success was sweet, but so was the danger of burnout. Started with small things. Amara began waking up exhausted, even after a full night's sleep. Her hands trembled from overworking, and she sometimes forgot meals, focused only on orders, inventory, and payroll. Then one morning, she collapsed. She was in the middle of prepping a new recipe when everything went black. She woke up in the hospital, for in her arm, her mother sitting beside her with Zoe in her lap. You're dehydrated, malnourished, stressed to the bone, the doctor said. You need to slow down, Amara. Your body is warning you. But how could she slow down? She had employees depending on her. Rent, a toddler, an image to maintain. If she slowed down, wouldn't everything fall apart? But something was already unraveling. As she recovered, she noticed missed shipments, customer complaints, a supplier who suddenly doubled their cost, an unexpected tax bill that nearly drained her savings. Worst of all, someone she had trusted, a manager she hired during her busiest season, had been pocketing cash from in-store sales. Amara sat alone in her shop one night after closing, staring at the register report. She felt betrayed, defeated. I built this from nothing, she whispered. Is it all falling apart now? The doubts crept in like cold wind through a cracked window. Was she in over her head? Maybe she wasn't cut out for this. Maybe the world had been right about her all along. She cried quietly, head in her hands, as the silence of the shop reminded her of those first nights. Pregnant, jobless, terrified. But this time, she wasn't alone. She looked up and saw Zoe's picture taped to the smoothie fridge, her baby's wide eyes and gummy smile staring back. And something in her shifted. She'd been here before. Lost, tired, scared. But she didn't stay there then, and she wouldn't now. Amara didn't quit. She rested. She delegated. She called her mom for help, hired a trusted accountant, sat down with a legal advisor. Bit by bit, she cleaned up the mess and learned from it. She redesigned her business, not just to survive, but to thrive without sacrificing herself. She trained her staff with intention, built systems to prevent theft, created a calendar with actual rest days, and made time for Zoe, real time. Zoe would sit on the bakery counter, swinging her tiny feet, sprinkling toppings on cookies. Customers adored her. She was part of the story now. Amara launched online baking classes, Mamas Who Bake, a platform for other single mothers to earn from home. She spoke at women's centers, telling her story. And each time she shared, another woman stood taller. She became what she never had, an example that it's possible. From the girl fired for carrying life, to the woman now giving life to others' dreams. Years later, she stood in front of a crowd, being honored as a Women in Business trailblazer. Tears welled up in her eyes as she held Zoe's hand and said into the mic, I wasn't broken when I got fired. I was just being redirected. The applause echoed like thunder. Because her story wasn't just hers, it was every woman's story who ever felt discarded, underestimated, or pushed aside. If this story touched your heart, don't let it stop here. Share it with someone who needs hope today. And if you're on your own journey of starting over, remember, sometimes the setback is just the setup for your most powerful comeback. Hit that subscribe button for more soul-twisting stories every week. Your next dose of hope is just a click away.